Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues. With this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 3 of the anime series, Plastic Memories. And I had a lot more fun with this episode and felt like it was much better mixed than the previous episode, more in line with, the first episode of the series, essentially. And I like a lot of the comedic elements. They're kind of getting all of those tropes out of the way that sometimes you'll see being spread across an entire, 12-episode series where you have the awkward main character and he's trying to get in with a girl he likes and everything. And he tries all these things. And this episode, I mean, the first 3/4 of it is basically him just listening to everyone else in the SAI terminal service office giving him advice, and it's mostly the guys, although you have Eru, who was debuted previous episode, being sort of the perviest of the females, giving him advice as to walking in on Ida in the shower, and but all the advice is going horribly wrong, and every single time he messes up, because you have Mishiru living next door, she comes barging in and finding him in these precarious and sometimes suggestively salacious, scenarios. And she's just so disapproving. At one point, she's horrified. She's getting really angry at him. And I like how, when you have that sort of pervy confrontation with the Eru character at the eatery or the restaurant, whatever it is, and you have Mishiru, finding that Tsukasa has Ida's diary, and, she thinks he's just perving out on Ida and he stole this diary and everything. And so she's sort of getting up in his face about it, and you better not do anything pervy, you better not do anything nasty. And you have Zach sitting back sort of laughing about it, oh yeah, you're one to talk, Mishiru, because obviously she does have some sort of interest in Tsukasa. The Sundata character in this particular show very much reminds me of Asuka Langley from Evangelion, and that whole dynamic, with the sort of looking at them as the main trio, Tsukasa, Ida, and, Mishiru. It's kind of the same dynamic you had with Shinji, Rei, and Asuka, although far less dramatic, even though there are dramatic themes in this series, which all have to do with Ida's sort of time limit, the, limits of her lifespan that are remaining to her. And I think the most intriguing aspect of this episode is the simplicity of the answer in the end. We do see that, for Tsukasa, he's sort of slow on the uptake, and that he's not piecing together what's going to work well now that he's basically having to shack up with Ida. They're partners, and the partners have to live together. I guess they have to sort of learn each other's way of being. It's just not working well for him at all. We see that Ida is very much in her own world, closed off. She doesn't really speak and everything. And we basically have Kazuki, their pseudo-boss. I mean, I know there are other boss figures in this particular, terminal service. But what's interesting is, because Kazuki has the history, she kind of knows a little bit more perceptively what's going to work with Ida than anyone else. And like I say, we see that all of their other suggestions are just horribly wrong and going all kinds of haywire. And if anything, making more of a gap, more of a divide between Ida and Tsukasa in the end. So it ends up being that, Kazuki's take her out, go out with her on a date or whatever. Just make an excuse to go out and have fun. And so he decides to take her out shopping. He's going to sort of, size her for a dress. He wants to buy her a dress as a thank you for what she's brought to the table in their partnership and everything, and kind of trying to do it on the down low, not let, Ida know that's what's going on. Of course, she ends up ripping the dress she's trying to try on. I say trying to try on because it's I don't know, there was squid work going on there. Did she have 5 extra limbs we haven't seen because she can't get this dress on the right way? And then, of course, they hop in an elevator in this mall, this shopping center, which is where he first ever, had a run-in with her. I like that they called back to that. And we find out what she was doing there. She was looking at herbs and spices, this really beautiful rooftop sort of, glass shop or whatever it is. And so he says, okay, well, maybe let's get herbs and spices, something, tell me what is the best, because it is going to be for her effectively, so let her choose. And he kind of describes her without her being aware that he's, talking about her character traits and everything, and she's kind of like, oh, this person sounds very annoying, describing herself. Then she puts on the glasses, and he's shocked that they're reading glasses. She's a robot, an android, a Giftia, so why does she need glasses? I chuckled at that as well. And so, it turns heartbreaking because that simplicity of what would have worked as far as bridging the gap between them comes to the fore in the fact that her memories and the memory space is precious. She only has so much time left, and I think she's very much sort of thinking in terms of herself of like a form and function. She wants to prepare tea. She gets a delight in serving a purpose, and it's a very simplistic purpose, to serve tea to everyone in the office, to serve tea to Tsukasa. And he's completely missed this. She's asked him time and time again in the episode through the course of his trial and error in trying to find a way to, make common ground between them, and missing the point every single step of the way. All she wants to do is perform her function, the one that she places the most value in. And it's a level of, like we've seen her on the job having to go and reclaim these Giftias and everything. She's always saying error. She's always not quite finding her way or her footing as well as she had in the past. And I think there's some level, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's necessarily internal, computer mechanization breakdown at this point. I think it's too early for that. But I think she's approaching the end of her days, and she's critically aware of it. And so the most, sort of teeny tiny, most simplistic aspects to make her happy are what she wants to focus on. And so by the end, she kind of leaves him hanging at that, little fairground or whatever, because at that point he's exposed why he's brought her there, the sharing and making of new memories. And this is something she maybe finds distasteful because it doesn't fall in line with what she'd rather, set her preferences toward. And so she does leave, and he's kind of like, why has this failed every step of the way? Why is it so hard to just be a friend to this girl I have to work as a partner with, even though she is sort of an artificial life form and all of that? And I like how it rounds out in the end. He ends up getting her little sort of keychain thing at the fairground. He gives it to her. He says, look, if you don't want it, get rid of it. But at least, take it for now. Think about it. And let me be a friend to you, and that kind of situation. And I like how, you basically have both of them really happy in that final moment, or, second to final moment, where he's like, well, now that we have these new herbs and everything, why don't you make us some tea? And she's all too happy to finally be asked to just perform the function she most desires to perform, the one that makes her feel the most valuable and serving a purpose. And I think it's rather telling toward the end when he's asleep in bed and we see that she's still sitting up in that gigantic mechanized chair. I want one of those, by the way. But she's got in her hand that keychain and she's just sort of staring at it. And I think the emphasis is, for all Tsukasa's failing, for all of the misdirections and poor advice he's gotten throughout the whole episode, the comedy, the hilarity, and even for his poor choice in trying to make, air quotes, memories with her, new memories and such, I think he has made an impact. I think he has succeeded in the end. And I think it is playing into, Ida's own sort of qualms about the time she has left, but I'm reflecting more toward it being a positive revelation than a negative one, that she's like looking at it, this little keychain as, oh, I have so little time left. How can I value this? I think it's more about Tsukasa, like I say, he succeeded. He made an impact on her, and she's realizing what his intent was. Now, will that continue into the next episode? Will hilarity ensue in place of it? Will more drama and tear-jerking stuff happen with going and getting other Giftias, action, stuff like that? Remains to be seen, but I really enjoyed this episode, suffice to say, and I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 3 of Plastic Memories, if you've seen it, if you thought this episode had a lot of heart like I did, and really enjoyed it, or if you thought it fell flat, because I know I had a little bit of a difference of opinion for the previous episode, episode 2. I just didn't feel like it was mixed as well as the first and now third episodes, and not every episode's going to please everybody, so I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of it, as long as there's no spoilery material from the source and origin material, as I was asked. And otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.